Now to a massive drug bust in the Twin Ports. Nearly 50 people tied to a trafficking gang are now behind bars after a 3-year investigation. And today, the Lake Superior Violent Offenders Task Force announced members of the Black Pea Stone Street Gang have been operating in the Twin Ports. They're out of Illinois. The local investigation started in 2023. That was after a local drug and firearm case morphed into that much higher level investigation. Authorities then found that those involved were dealing drugs and using violence and coercion to get others involved. Yesterday alone, 10 search warrants were executed and 24 arrests made. More than $28,000 were found in cash. Hundreds of grams of drugs were seized, including meth, fentanyl, and cocaine. Again, that was all just yesterday. Since the investigation started in 2023, 48 people have been arrested. Thousands of grams of drugs seized, including fentanyl, M30 pills, and crack cocaine. In all, law enforcement also collected 17 firearms. As for where arrests took place, authorities said they happened all over the state. A Duluth police spokesperson also told us this was one of their most intensive operations they've conducted in a while.